Let's get started by looking at some examples of how we can use evaluation nodes and add them into our optimization workflow to compute some rankings or ratings to help us decide which of the different test cases that Dynamo has helped us generate are the most attractive to us. So we're going to basically start with the same workflow that we explored in Module 5, where we basically set up a modeling environment and a form to test. Then we go through and compute and create some alternatives that we want to test, and then loop through those alternatives using a custom node to encapsulate some logic and setting up a list map to go through and test each case. For these new examples, what we're going to do is define some objective functions. We're going to do that first by defining some node logic and testing on a single instance of the building form, just making sure it works right. Then we'll encapsulate that logic in a custom node and ultimately integrate that into the testing loop. We'll bring our new custom node into our testing node, okay, and then rerun all the different test cases, getting those new values. So let's go ahead and see how that actually applies. In this example, we're going to be taking a look at how we can actually use some values that are generated by Revit, in this case the mass floor areas, to create an estimate of either the value of the property that's being created or maybe the construction cost. There's a lot of things that are based on just floor areas and multiplying different dollar figures by those floor areas. And Revit has very handily been creating floor areas for us. In the Revit model, each of the different mass floors that are being created, where the floor levels intersect with our mass form, report that area. And we can go ahead and grab that area out and then go through and multiply it by some cost metrics to compute an overall value. The way the basic logic works is like this. If I go over to Dynamo, let's let that spin for just a minute as it catches up with me. Okay, here's the basic logic. This is the part that should look familiar to you. We set up some input parameters, we created some values we wanted to test, and we created this nice looping function, where that looping function would fill in different values and be supplied by the list map and report those values. What's going to be a little bit different in these examples is we are going to go through and create some new logic. So let's see if I can get to that. Down underneath the existing logic, I've gone through and created some new nodes to actually go through, in this case, compute some mass floor areas, and then apply a little bit of a cost metric to those floor areas. We'll take a look at how to do that in some detail. And then we're going to encapsulate that in some new custom nodes. What we're going to basically do is copy the logic in those groups into some new custom nodes. Then finally, we're going to go through and embed those new custom nodes in a new testing node, a new version that actually is going to include some additional custom nodes to include the evaluations. And when this is evaluated, the results will look a little bit different. You'll see here we have the output of the evaluations. We have the input values, we have a couple of the reporting parameters, and then our new value down at the bottom, which is our estimate of the cost or estimate of the value that's being created. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at how we can go through and build this example.